And we're back. Hey, Benji.
Are we back? This is our first episode.
That's a good point, but I think that's what people say here that a lot. And we're back, like after a commercial.
Right.
Everything's been a commercial until now. So, hey, Benji.
Hi, Avi.
Great to finally be here with you.
You dragged me here, and I'm happy to be here.
This has been a long time in the making. So here we are on a podcast that we both felt it was important to do, especially me.
Very much so. It was on your bucket list.
On my bucket list, although I hope I have a very long life.
Right.
I plan to live at least as long as Norm Macdonald did. And so that gives me another...
We're already talking about Norm Macdonald.
9.5 years.
Okay.
We get, we get like a dime every time we mention Norm Macdonald from his foundation.
Nice.
So we wanted to do a podcast about Israel. We are obviously in a very difficult and depressing and weighty and weird time in Israel.
Right. Although tonight, good news.
Great news tonight, right? 4 hostages were released in a daring military rescue tonight. So that was that's just like an example. That hasn't happened enough.
Right. It's like a roller coaster here.
It's a roller coaster
with mostly downhills. You know, I don't know how that works physically, like with the physics part. Like it's probably built on a slope.
Right. A lot of tunneling.
Too much tunneling.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what it's been like here. And so, but tonight is a great night. And so a great night to record this. And we wanted to, I felt like in my heart that there's a lot of things that we could talk about that a lot of people would relate to. And also, and we also don't agree on everything. So I'm hoping that we disagree a lot.
We disagree a lot.
Like, for example, a lot of people have told me that you're funny. Disagree. I disagree.
I disagree.
I guess, I don't know what you think. I don't know if you think you're funny. Maybe
I tried stand-up comedy for the first time in my life.
And I was there.
You were there. You supported me.
I was there.
And people...
Did you recognize me in the audience, even though my face was contorted with laughter?
It was hard to tell. The lights were strong, but I heard laughs, like real laughs. So obviously I'm funny. Yeah.
Right. I know. I mean, that's not surprising. I mean, I knew that you thought that.
I know.
All right, so let's get to some of what we wanted to speak about tonight.
At some point, by the way, I want to hear what else is on that bucket list.
I think you will, from episode to episode.
Nice.
All right, so we, I guess this is going to be takes on what it's like to be here and what things look like from here.
Right.
And there's a lot of issues to talk about.
We're going to talk about stuff over there also, like in the States, because you and I, we're both...
For us, over there is the States.
Right.
But not only New York, but mostly New York.
Where besides New York is there? No, that's not true. We've been other places. Shout out to Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah. But I think that we're going to also talk a little bit about over there because we're basically part of both worlds. Both worlds made us. And there's what to say.
Right. Okay. We said we'd talk about appropriate topics, so maybe not about what...
Yeah, so I have a job.
So when you say, like, let's not talk about what made us, I think that's not for the podcast. Children are listening.
Exactly, right. We both have jobs. I'm a salaryman. Like, I go to work every day. I'm the only person I know in Ra'anana that actually gets up and ends up at work every single day. Not in my house, not at the gym. Like, I should go to the gym also. That's a separate issue. So I have to keep that job. The job's in education.
Right. So that will avoid. So we'll edit out parts that could get you fired.
Yeah. I'm like forming and helping to mold.
But there might be like a VIP subscription that could get access to that in exchange for, like, if they sign an NDA.
Sure. Yeah.
There could be money in that for you.
Yeah. As long as we can, like, tell who's subscribing and block some people that I work for. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Maybe AI can do that. Maybe. I've heard about
it. What is this AI I've heard so much about?
I have no idea.
Is it America, Israel?
I don't think so.
That's terrible.
No, it's terrible.
You're winning. It feels like that's going to be the level.
AI is winning in the end. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about it. Let's get to it. We wanted to talk today first about Aliyah, moving to Israel. For those of our non-Jewish listeners, Aliyah is moving to Israel. There may be some people who don't know Hebrew.
I think episode 1, there's like...
Also, Aliyah was a rapper, I believe, in the 90s. I think she tragically died in a plane crash.
There's something to that, yeah.
Something about that. Aliyah,
she spelled it differently, I think.
What's our assistant's name?
AI.
No, we need like a name. Matt. I think that's from Conan. Is there a Matt on Conan?
I don't know. Conan was on there for like 20
We'll have our
years,
assistant look up about
He
Aliyah.
probably had it.
Okay, we could edit. We could edit that part out. But okay, so what it's like to make Aliyah, and well, not what it's like to make Aliyah, but I think what it's like to have made Aliyah, and let's talk about it.
Okay.
So there are good parts about it, and probably bad parts about it.
Yeah, it's a complicated topic. I mean, maybe talk a little bit about when did you make Aliyah? Why did you make Aliyah?
I made Aliyah in 1999.
How old are you?
I'll be 52 in the summer, at the end of the summer, in September. For me, well, anyway, we won't go into that. But like it always creeps up on me because the summer, like, I still think like a kid, like the summer's like endless, like the summer's longer than the rest of the year.
Yeah, something to
When I imagine a year, it's all the months on the bottom of this like flat oval, and then just the 3 months of the summer exactly the same length as the other 9 months on top, and then it starts again. I should probably change that at some point.
So there's gonna be a really long summer for you.
I
don't understand what you're talking.
All summers seem long, and then before they start, and then when they're done, they seem really short. And then I'm a year older, and that process starts again.
Oh, interesting.
And that's why I haven't gotten a lot done.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I keep on leaving it to the summer. Anyway, so I'll be 52. 99 made Aliyah with my wife, and we had 2 daughters at the time. And I would say, I don't know why we made Aliyah. It was just from an instinctive desire to be, I think to be part, I know this sounds corny and ridiculous, but to be part of the part of Jewish history that's going to be important. And I think to be part of the place that gave refuge to and might need to again give refuge to Jews, period, like Jews who would be escaping persecution. Now, that's very heavy, but I was reading a lot of Holocaust books at the time.
Okay.
And that's, I would say, yeah, I want to add one thing to that, but let's hear what...
Well, I mean, you say it's instinctive, but you were raised in a religious Zionist environment and home, strong supporters of Israel.
Yeah, I don't mean I was born there. If I'd been raised in a Christian home in Minnesota, I definitely would not have thought that. So
probably not. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mean strictly speaking instincts.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
By the way, something about instincts.
Yeah.
You ever think about birds?
I think a lot about birds.
Yeah. I mean, this is way off topic.
Yeah.
I'll bring it back though.
Okay.
Like if you think of like human instincts, what you would do if no one ever taught you something, right? What are the things that you would know to do? Like that, if you were on an island, like think of the Blue Lagoon with.
I would build 2 synagogues if I were on an island.
That's good. Yeah.
One I would.
That was just instinct.
One I would pray in, and one that I wouldn't step foot in.
Right.
Okay.
But there's not that much.
Right, baby. Right. There's a lot to say about this,
but
in fact, it's a whole other podcast. Not just another episode. It's a whole other podcast. But go ahead. Keep going.
I'll bring this back to the topic because I was watching some birds today, and I was thinking they know how to build their nest, which is an intricate process. Where to build it, what to build it from, how big it should be, hold the eggs, not hold the eggs, whatever.
Probably hold the eggs.
Nobody taught them any of that.
Which are the birds that build a nest that doesn't hold the eggs?
I'm saying they know not to build that nest, and yet
they do it.
And
now bring it back.
I'm bringing it back to the fact that with us, what we learn, our environment, our education is critical, right? My view of humanity.
And you're an educator.
Exactly. My view of humanity is that people are good overall, and things like ideology, education, parenting, it makes all the difference.
Yes.
And as such, I grew up in the home. My mother was like Herzl.
Now we're back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as a human, right? I'm not a bird. As a human, my parents were like basically Herzl 1 and Herzl 2. All they talked about was Israel. My family tried to make Aliyah when I was little. I lived here from when I was 5 till I was 8.
When you say tried, they like went to the wrong country?
No, they failed.
But they got it to Israel.
We lasted 3 years.
That's a long time. I wouldn't call that a failure.
Well, the summers are long,
Very long.
But anyway, my parents were like tremendous Zionists, always talking about Israel, and we tried to make Aliyah, and that was a real formative experience for me. Like being a kid in Israel, like it was in the 80s. I mean, the freedom we had was crazy. Like I used to take just buses alone to Gaza. I think I just did really. It was possible at that time. I pretty much did whatever I want, And I always went on from there and knew that I would move here. I just knew it. And so when I finally moved here, it was my wife and I and our baby, 6 months old baby, a 6-month-old baby boy. And we lived here for 14 years, and then we moved back for 7.
As we get more comfortable with the podcast, we might say our children's names, but not in the first episode.
Well, would we have to pay them?
We might have to pay them.
I don't want to pay them.
All right, fair enough.
No.
But speaking of birds,
Yeah.
I tried to take up a relaxing habit during these, stressful times in Israel, and so I thought about bird watching.
Sure.
And so I went with this guy. You know him. I won't mention his name. He's a super annoying guy, he kind of suggested bird watching to me, and we went to.
By the way, that doesn't even barely narrow it down. Okay.
We went to watch to do the bird watching, and I thought it would just be like quiet, and we'd get there with the binoculars, and he's like, "Oh, last month I saw a cardinal, and last week I saw a heron, and then and I also saw a blue jay," and I'm like, "You and your bird dropping."
Good. We can add in laughter, right?
Yes, that's what the editor will do.
But do you want me to laugh? Seriously, do you want me to laugh at this?
I mean, if you think it's funny.
I have to listen to more podcasts to see if people laugh at things like that.
Okay.
Back to me. So I basically, we moved back to the States, and then we came back here. So it's a little more complicated.
So what do you gain? Now we're here.
Yeah, so I know everything about America. I know everything about Israel now. That's the beauty of moving around a lot.
Yeah, I would say also it's come into focus now, but there are differences. Like, it's harder, I think, to be living in America now and thinking about Israel than it's probably ever been before. Like, I think there's starting to be a diverging of opinions and maybe even policy, where there's some things that might be in America's interest, taking all Americans into account, and then some things that are in Israel's interest, and they're different. That's always existed, but I think it's coming into sharper distinction now.
You're saying, like, you're talking geopolitics now?
I'm talking about, like America. Like, if you're I'm careful about using the word Jew, but if you're a Jew, if you're a Zionist,
by the way,
what?
Why are you careful about using the word Jew?
Because I don't want to, because of dual loyalty.
I see. By the way, I mean, the sad thing to me, at least now, is that this is not going to be news to you, is that young American Jews, like, a lot of them don't like Israel anymore.
Right. So that's also happening. There's a lot of episodes to do here.
Yeah, we have so much to do.
A lot of interviews we could do.
Right. So you kind of have to. You can't say Jew anymore. You used to be able to say that, like, with. Look, there was always, like, when we were young.
If a price was high, I would say to the store that the manager, like, don't Jew me on the price. I would say Jew all the time as a kid.
You would, yeah, and in the back of your mind, you say, oh, and he's also a Zionist. You can't do that anymore, because there are so many Jews over there now that have nothing to do with Israel or don't want to have anything to do with Israel.
True.
When we were kids, I just want to remind you, if I were to say to you, Jews who are anti-Zionist, who would come to mind? Quick.
Jews anti-Zionist?
Anti-Zionist people, you see them at the Israel Day Parade.
Chomsky.
That's one guy. A group.
Oh, the Neturei Karta.
A couple thousand wackos.
Yeah.
And that was it. They were like early investors in Apple, if you think about it.
You're right.
Because anti-Zionism spread like crazy, like iPhones.
Those guys are geniuses. Jews should find out what Neturei Karta is investing in and invest in it. I bet they made a ton of money on NVIDIA.
They might have, right? But anyway, I do think you're right. You can't. I don't know if this is what you said, but you can't use the word Jew anymore to refer to someone who's almost certainly a Zionist when it comes to American Jews. Right. And I can also tell you here that many times when I've said to Israelis, you've probably gotten this question, or you did when you were closer to when you made Aliyah, when they ask you why'd you come, and the answer is, I'm a Zionist. Like, they think there's a punchline coming,
Well, I had this when I went with my family to a couple of summers ago, maybe 3 summers ago. We went to Las Vegas for the first time. Mm-hmm. I'd never been to Las Vegas. I'd been to Reno, but I'd never been to Las Vegas.
Right.
And we took a day and we went on a amazing boat ride, wave running ride on I guess it's the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon.
Oh, nice.
And it's an amazing, it's like the most fun day ever. And we took a helicopter out of there also to, which is like we planned to take a helicopter out of it. And it was really one of the best days of my life. It was like super fun. But on it, So you get kind of, you talk a lot to the people on the boat with you, and there was, like people said, where do you live? Because we don't sound Israeli, but we still, I guess. So by the way, some words do sound Israeli. Like I probably have a little bit of an Israeli accent, but I don't know.
I don't hear it.
Some words it comes out.
Okay.
Like for example, the word course. I'm taking a course.
That sounds right.
Sounds American?
Yeah.
I don't know. My
Well,
wife
how-
makes fun
I
of me
mean-
about, like course. Like I say course. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they said, so where do you live? I was like, in Israel. And he's like, oh really? Like you're on, like you're a diplomat, or I'm like a military thing. I'm like, no, we live there. We moved there. And he's like, oh, yeah, why? And I think the actual answer is because I'm an extreme Zionist, maybe messianistic Jew who thinks that Jews should live in Israel. Like it's insane to a neutral observer for an American to move to Israel. Right?
Yeah, I think that's true. But what I'm saying is it's insane even to some Israelis that you came.
We get that all the time.
That's what I was saying.
Why did you move here? Especially Americans. It's like a hierarchy. Americans are the most insane.
No,
They gave up the most. Like
I think
good.
Australians did.
Why would you say that?
I've seen the women. I mean, it's amazing. The women.
The women in Australia. Are,
Yeah, I think they're on the beach all the time. They have the barrier reef.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I think also
a bad accent, but
Australians are taking also the biggest chance of Israel like not being here because they're coming from very far.
that's true.
And Israel's very small.
Long
They need
plane.
really good navigation to get here.
Yeah.
It's really,
You're saying I'm not finding it
it's
when the
riskiest for them.
plane.
Yeah.
I think the technology. I don't think pilots do anything anymore. I have an idea, by the way, that there's a potential.
We want to hear this idea.
Yeah, there's the potential that pilots nowadays are actors. Meaning, my understanding from people in the aviation industry is that planes can fly themselves, take off, landing, everything.
Right.
And that guy he's like a former quarterback, you know? He's like got the drawl. He says the right things.
Right.
And he's just there.
He's calm under pressure.
There's no pressure. The plane's flying
Exactly the
itself.
reason-
He doesn't know what
but
to
even
do.
in an emergency, he's calm because there's nothing to do.
I don't think they're trained anymore.
You
I
can't
don't
influence it.
I think they're more likely
What
to screw
about
things up.
Captain Sully Sullenberger? Would you say the same thing? Of
I'm
him?
talking
He's a
international
hero.
flights.
He's
Yeah.
a hero.
Or Australia, maybe.
So on
Yeah.
domestic flights,
Domestic, they'll get a
They're
real
still
pilot.
pilots.
Yeah.
but international flights are. That
It's
seems
like
reasonable.
I think it's a union issue. Like, you know, they have to hire the real pilots. Yeah.
Note to self: do an episode on conspiracy thinking.
Okay.
Okay, so back to Aliyah.
Yeah.
So Benji, what are some things that for you have been good about making Aliyah? And then I'll say some things that have been good for me, and maybe they will resonate with some of our listeners, especially those of them that are tuning forks.
Look, I think the first one is the most important, and that is that you feel like you're at the center of Jewish history. You're at the most important place, and you're part of it. You're part of building something. It gives like meaning to life. I think a lot of people that move here are looking for that meaning, like, and whether they find it or not is a question. Now, the downside of that is to be at the center of the Jewish history, or the Jewish experience right now, means that there's a big target on you.
Right.
You know, because some people don't like Jews, and they certainly don't like Zionists. So
what would
there's
you
a
put- you said
downside.
If you put a
there.
word on that, it would be meaning.
Meaning, yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot of people come here because
Totally agree with that. It's corny, but it's true.
Right. Now, there are people who come here searching for meaning, and they find it, but not in the right way, right? Like they're meaning, if I ask you, when do you feel the most patriotic, the most Israeli, the most like connected, it's often when things are going badly here.
Right. Or in a day like today when there's like a glimmer of hope in a bad situation.
Right. Also in these great moments.
I think it's also part of it. Right. As a kid, yes, and I guess also like the IDF and like the Entebbe or like your daring Israeli military operations. That's like a reason. That's like not even something our parents taught us. Like, I definitely agree with you about what you said about our parents educating us in the home we grew up in. But it was also things we could observe ourselves, I think, that made it important. Okay.
Well,
so meaning,
right? And I always wondered, like, if things really work out here, God willing, you know, and it's just a regular country, and there's not even an army, or there's an army that's a volunteer army, like Switzerland. I don't know they may have a draft. Actually, I don't know.
I think they do.
Okay. Please cut that. So if
but in their homes, they don't have a draft that's like built very well. There's like no.
In Switzerland?
Yeah, no wind.
Also, I think
enters
they have
house.
the highest per capita gun ownership or something in the world.
I think because that has to do with the draft. I think a lot of them have like military issue rifles at home in a locked box. I don't know if any of that's true, but
I have no idea. But maybe we should change the podcast to talk about
That
Switzerland.
may be why Swiss cheese has so many holes.
I mean,
If they have so many guns.
it could be that's how they make it. You shoot at the cheese.
That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
I think we've solved a mystery.
I got to go change a Wikipedia entry.
I can't think of any other reason.
But my point is that I always wondered if things really work out here.
So that's one of the. Yeah, go ahead.
Whether people would still find that meaning. Meaning, does the meaning come
Well, if
from...
we all get killed here, then they won't.
I'm not saying that, but the struggle brings meaning. And therefore, if there was no real struggle, then if we just had a prosperous society like in the U.S. that was at peace with our neighbors, that people this is like I'm describing Shangri-La here, but would there still be that drive to get here to find meaning, or would this just be a nice place to live with added?
If you don't know what Shangri-La is, this is not the podcast for you.
Right.
Go ahead.
Exactly. Anyway, just an open question, but I would put meaning as my number one. Yeah.
I agree with you, unfortunately, on that one. We're not going to disagree about that. I put meaning as number one.
We don't have to disagree about
everything. So I made a little list of things that you gain and you lose.
Okay.
Moving to so I'd say with the meaning, but it's also like a sense of identity that goes with the meaning, because I think because you come here looking for meaning, you quickly, or even before you come here, you identify very much with the people who are here. And that is expressed in a lot of ways. So one of the things I wrote that you gain is that when you move to Israel, you get yelled at by people who don't hate you. And you get yelled at a lot here. But
you're putting that as a gain?
Yes.
That you get yelled at?
Yeah, because like for example, like you got like when you take a bus here. I don't know when the last time someone like you with your success and
I drive
you have several drivers.
You
drive a bus. I have a car, a Daihatsu Sirion, that I call Chetzi Limousina. It's a half a limousine. Like it's literally half of a limousine. Like it's about how big it is. I mean, like half of a.
But not like a stretch limousine, like
no,
prom. That's still a big car.
Not a prom limousine.
Okay,
right,
not even half. I don't understand what you're saying. You're saying that there's an upside to being yelled at by people
because
who
if you
don't
think
hate
about
you.
so like when a bus driver yells at you, like insults you, like why are you giving me this 100 shekel bill? Like, what are you, stupid?
Yeah.
I don't have change for that. And then he gives you change because he does have change. This is back in the days when he used to pay with money. But now it could be, I don't know, drivers even. Like, but drivers maybe is not so good because of road rage.
Some people would
take
put
it back to the bus driver
as a negative.
It's a negative, but then you think that he's only doing that, and I know he's only doing that because there's like a sense in which he can. Like there's a connection.
Familiarity.
You're not going to call the police. You're not going to be scared. He's not going to get fired.
You're going about it in a roundabout way, but that's definitely a plus.
That's how
is a sense of belonging, of a sense of family. Now, it depends where you come from, right? There are people who come from places where they really feel like an outsider as a Jew, right? In New York City, you don't feel that so much. It's sort of this tapestry of different people. But yeah, you feel like you belong. You feel like you're home. Now, it's a dysfunctional home.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
But that's also...
And I would put some of that yelling on the negative. Maybe we'll get to it. Like, I personally, I mean, you may like it. I don't like being yelled at.
I have a long list of things you lose.
I can tell you just a quick story. I used to work at a big company, and we would negotiate in foreign countries. And I used to be an attorney, actually. I was the lawyer on the deal.
Before you were disbarred.
And constantly, the business people that were on either side of me would start yelling at each other. Mm-hmm. And this refrain would happen many times during every conversation. I would have to look to the other side and say, they're not arguing. They're just talking. Really?
Explain that these, right.
I say that they're just talking. They're not like, I see your eyes are bugging out right now, sister, but my little French friend, but they're fine. Like this is how they talk.
Right. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't mind the quiet though. Like I don't see that as a tremendous upside.
I don't think it's an upside, but I think that the what it implies is the upside.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, so you're in a dysfunctional family, but what family is not dysfunctional? I believe, as Tolstoy said.
I'm trying to think of like.
I think
don't
it's
know.
always.
I'm trying to think of like I only know my family and families from TV shows.
The Tolstoy quote.
Yeah. What?
Every happy family is the same. Every is happy in the same way. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way, or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow, what an illiterate podcast.
Um,
Almost every podcaster knows that quote by heart.
Yeah, I was going to bring up like families from
Family ties.
sitcoms, and so I know my family, not the most dysfunctional, but those families, some of them. Oh no, there was always dysfunction.
What?
Think
On
like
sitcoms?
Yeah, I'm thinking like Different Strokes.
Yeah, and also Bill Cosby became a rapist.
Yeah, that's true.
So who knows?
They didn't include that in the show, right?
Yeah, but life imitates art.
Yeah.
I don't mind paying Bill Cosby a dime for using his name on.
Is he still in prison?
I think he might have gotten out. There was that. That's a different podcast.
Okay.
I think it was something was overturned.
I didn't follow that story.
All right.
Okay, so
what do you lose? What do you lose? Oh, things that you lose when you make Aliyah. You gain a sense of family, a sense of meaning. I would
Right.
say you gain.
Those are big.
You gain the beach, by the way. It's a beautiful beach in Israel.
There's beaches everywhere.
Yeah, it's
No,
not
I mean, what are you talking about?
not everywhere. There's a landlocked country with no beaches, unless you think
There
of desert.
are, but we're talking versus like America or Australia. The
So
greatest country in the
you're
world.
very coast centric. Most of America has no beach.
Most Jews live on the coast,
Um,
like overwhelmingly.
I guess that's true.
You know why? They want to feel like they're in Israel without having to come here. No, you're right. We live near the beach. That's
Right.
true. But if you live out in the Shtachim somewhere,
In that sense, we're more like the West Coast because the water's on the left,
yeah, dude.
or we're on the East Coast, but you're looking down.
It's too late at night for me to understand that. Even yeah, I guess. So.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
So, what things you lose? Ready? I'm gonna do a quick thing and pick up the pace of the podcast a little bit.
Okay.
Talk a little quicker. Do a quick list of things that you lose.
They could
Ready?
just put us on double speed. We
Yeah,
don't
that's
have to-
true. People might do
yeah.
that, so I'm going to slow it down.
That's
again.
what I do.
What
with
you
your
lose?
WhatsApp
You
messages.
lose
Yeah,
Sunday.
that's big.
That's the biggest loss.
Right. I have no time to go to church now.
No time to go to church. No time to get bagels. Forget about church.
That's right. Bagels.
Bagels. No time to do nothing, and then later in the afternoon,
Feel bad about it.
feel bad about it. Get a headache because you didn't drink coffee like you do in the regular. I used to get a lot of headaches on Sundays in America. But
Why don't
have
you
to
drink
visit-
coffee on Sunday?
I didn't drink as much because I was.
Well, you had
too
the
lazy.
time because you were napping.
But also, I pay for my own coffee at home.
Yeah. I think Sundays it's like this shining light on a hill,
Yeah.
this lodestar of what we miss. And
Nice.
yet, when you think back to your Sundays as a kid, it was mostly procrastinating. It was a lot of watching football, ended up being
A lot of
blowouts.
watching football. I'm not even a football fan. A lot of watching baseball. That's exactly what's missing.
Right.
I feel like I knew more. Like there's a lot with one of our next episodes. I hope if this is picked up by one of the networks, we'll talk about
Please.
other issues in Israel. Maybe even like the different kind of groups in Israel and how they're separate. So maybe the ultra orthodox, the Haredim,
Uh-huh.
Haredim for our Jewish listeners.
Right.
And maybe other things we have planned. We won't give too much away in the first episode. but where was I? What was I talking about?
You were we mentioned baseball and you got very excited.
Oh, baseball. So I feel like I had more to do with Christians, just non-Jewish New Yorkers. I grew up in New York, and other people from other religions and parts of the world, Indians, Pakistanis in New York, Hispanics from all over, Puerto Ricans.
What do you mean had to do?
I had more in common with them because on many, many Sundays, mostly in the summer, I would be at Yankee Stadium with them, rooting for the same team, talking to them. They would do me a favor. They would pass me the beer or the kosher hot dog when they started having them. I would pass them a stuff to them. We would talk about the Yankees. We would be happy at the same time, sad at the same time. I was at Game 6 of the 1996 World Series, and I don't mean to alienate any Mets fans, by the way, by talking about the Yankees so much.
We have a small audience anyway.
Don't
alienate anyone.
A lot of people might be Mets fans, by the way. Right. So this could be.
They wear it as a badge of pride.
If the Mets had won any World Series, I'd be talking about them.
They did win a World Series.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
But and whereas in Israel, since there is that thing does not exist because there's no day on which it can happen. I have nothing to do with. I had much more to do with Haredim in America than I have in Israel. Than I do in Israel.
Okay, let me counter that.
You should say something because you're also on this podcast.
Yeah, what you're describing isn't actually having anything to do with them. You're talking about these like very short interactions that are superficial. You didn't have any close
disagree.
friends who were not Jewish. At least I didn't. I didn't really. I grew up in Teaneck, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Currently, basically the size of Jerusalem in terms of its Jewish population, but it wasn't all Jewish when I grew up at all.
This is not a podcast about Teaneck. It's just boring.
Teaneck goes back to the Revolutionary War. There's actually a place there where Washington slept. Whatever. So, but I never really spoke to a non-Jew other than someone in like a shopkeeper or nobody until law school.
Right.
Law school. Meaning,
right.
Yes, I also went to baseball games, and yes, I said thank you and
but there's
excuse
something
me
to
and
that.
how long you gonna be in that urinal for. But I never actually had much to do with them. So
yeah.
Anyway, let's distill this. You're saying that what you're missing here is
there's a day when you went out into the world, and as a kid, I went to the park. I grew up in Manhattan, was in Central Park a lot.
You're island dropping.
Yeah. And you would see that you were the same as all these different kinds of people.
So you're missing the diversity.
Yes, I miss it. Yeah, I'm missing
There
the
are
diversity of
Arabs here.
And in that sense, I would say the other thing that you lose is non-Jews in general. Even though you have, and what I mean by, well, I know that there are non-Jews in Israel.
Yeah.
And we're in a war with a lot of them right now.
Yeah.
But they're not exactly. What I mean by non-Jew is people who don't care about you because of who you are, one way or the other. Like in New York, and even in New York, which is a very Jewish town, but there were just people who couldn't care less about me because I was Jewish. That might be changing now, by the way.
That's what you thought, anyway.
That's what I think it was true at the time. But there's something very good about there being a world that you experience, and Sunday was I guess you experienced it every day, but Sunday was a real day to experience it because no one was doing anything either, and just people couldn't care less about me. They couldn't care less about me, but they were polite to me.
People don't care less about you here either. But
they want to kill you, or people want to kill them for not wanting to kill you. So like Druze.
So this is like a real generalization. I think if you were asked,
we're generalizing.
Okay, but I'm saying there's like Israeli Arabs are in themselves have, I think, not like some monolithic view of you, right? As a Jew, as an Israeli. I don't believe that.
I think I agree with you about that.
Okay, so they're here and they look at you as just someone who walked in the pharmacy, not to be, not to stereotype, right? Like every pharmacist in Israel is an Arab woman.
I don't think so.
Or trans woman, man. I don't know what to say anymore, but they're all seemingly Arab women.
Yeah, there are a lot.
And they're all polite and they don't want to kill me.
That's a thing. American Jews probably don't know this, but almost all pharmacists in Israel are Arab.
Right.
And it's like their main career choice.
And they're all friendlier than any Israeli who's,
but I'm going to go out. I'm going to say that it's not true.
Service.
I think when what do you call it? When the rubber hits the road, and we're close to the rubber hitting the road here. Like the rubber hit the road with Gaza. But if I think one of the reasons it's so bad here now is because we're pretty near to a situation where people really need to take sides and decide who they're protecting and who they're not. And that would be terrible because, like you say, it's good. Like, and before October 7th, things were really good here, and I didn't really think about that at all. Like, maybe a tiny bit, but I think there could come a time where even those wonderful pharmacists would have to think, whose side are they on?
I don't know.
And
we can explore that when we talk about Israeli Arabs,
and that would be terrible.
I happen to know that they are viewed quite negatively in the rest of the Arab world.
Right.
Like they're getting it from both sides.
So,
but we could
remember when I said this was the quick round? We're going to do the bullet points on the list?
If I might, I would agree with you about Sundays, but disagree with all your reasons. Honestly, I don't need to be like ordering a pretzel at a Yankee game from a non-Jew. Like that's not why I like Sundays. If I may, I think just the basic stuff. Like there is something nice about after Shabbos. You got Saturday night,
another day,
and you're not going to work the next. Again, you don't work maybe, but the next day you got to go to work, and then Friday you get off. But Friday you also have to prepare. Like that's the basics. Like,
but I think that Sundays would, if we had a Sunday here, it would help us be more united and to have more in common, because there's really no leisure day when people see each other on on Shabbat.
I get it.
The non-religious go their own way. The Jews are at home. The religious Jews are at home. I make that mistake a lot, calling Chilonim non-Jews.
Right. You know, when I first moved to Israel, I tried to do something to keep my sanity.
It's a Freudian slip. What I do with the non-Jews and calling Chilonim non-Jews and calling Jews like me Jews, like Shomer Shabbos.
Did you just do that?
No, I did it a minute ago.
That's horrible.
You have to listen on a podcast.
Oh, I didn't know. This is new to me.
Also, a Freudian slip is the slip I'm wearing.
It's very nice.
There's mother issues.
Yeah. I would just tell you that when I first moved to Israel, this thing about Sunday really bothered me, to the extent that I asked from all my friends, I tried to like change the names of the days of the week in order. So I wanted to feel like Friday was Sunday. So Thursday night I called Saturday night. Does that make sense? And yes. Friday I called Sunday.
You did a lot of adjustments. I remember that.
And Saturday night I called Sunday night because the next day I'm working. But it made no sense, meaning I had to keep everybody on board. I have to say I'm going to see you Saturday night. They didn't know what I was talking about. I just tried to keep this Sunday as a real thing on Friday. It didn't work.
Right.
Now with AI, maybe it could. I just tell it like change on my calendars for to rename the days of the week.
I would wait for you where you said we would meet Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't standing you up. It just wasn't
also,
in my mind. It wasn't Saturday night.
You invented a currency.
I did in the beginning.
Tell our listeners about that. You're an economist of a kind.
Of a sort, yeah.
You're a Milton
I'm trying to remember what I did there, but basically I noticed that I was spending shekels like monopoly money. Like I just didn't mean anything to me. Mm-hmm. And when I was spending dollars, I'm like, oh, that's $1. Like, should I spend it?
For me also, it was I would go to buy stuff in shekels. I would convert it to $1 in my mind and then be like, oh, it's not that expensive.
There's that. Oh, right. But I was making less money. Right. That's true. I was making less money.
But then you realize, right.
Then I realized I can't spend like I did over there.
Right.
You know, just like water.
So, right.
But what did I call that currency? It was
the
like
hain.
The hain, right. So the hain was a 2-to-1. It was a 2-to-1
the
conversion.
Shekel was $4 to $1.
And I would bring it down to 2-to-1.
And how'd that work out for you? Because I see you have plenty of time to do podcasts. But
not so well.
Because you're a man of leisure.
Yeah. It didn't work out so well, no. By the way, if I would have asked, maybe not you, because you think big things, I'll give you that. But if I were to ask a typical Israeli on October 6th, what are the top 10 issues facing Israel, like facing us, you know, that we really have to work on? Mm-hmm. You know, there would be like judicial reform, the housing crisis, the price of goods, healthcare, schooling. The Palestinians might have come in. One of them might have
made a top 10 list. Like if you'd asked random people, one of them might have been funny and did like a funny list.
Yeah, one person.
Okay, go on.
Statistically, I wouldn't have found him, but the Palestinian issue would not have probably been in the top 5.
Especially with Gaza.
Meaning it would have been like, that thing that we don't think about. So
you're right.
There's now this like basic, you know, lack of calm and everyone's like sort of concerned all the time.
Another thing that you lose, and I think we'll agree about this one, is the smell of bacon.
In the morning.
Mostly in the morning.
Yeah.
In a coffee place, we pick up coffee, and there's bacon, and they have the what do you call it, the skillet.
I'm concerned you're gonna like.
There's no skillet, barely any skillets here. You have skillets for
very few skillets.
Meat. They're fleshik here.
I'm concerned you're going to be converting to Christianity, meaning the biggest things you're missing about America are non-Jews and bacon.
Maybe there's something.
Something there.
There's something there. But the smell of bacon, you don't get it. There's a lot of shawarma. It's not the same though. Bacon has like a very distinct smell. Even my kids who grew up here, when we go to a hotel in Europe or on vacation or something like that,
they like a strong smell.
Or to an Airbnb when my wife is cooking up some bacon.
Yeah.
It's a different, you know. All right. Another thing you lose, and this is going to be counterintuitive for you.
Okay.
Guns. And you'll say.
I would say, what do you mean? There's so many guns on the street here. You see them all the time.
Especially after October 7th, a lot of people have guns.
Tons of guns.
But they only have one. And my friends in America who have guns have like 15.
Do you have a lot of friends with a lot of guns?
I don't have a lot of friends.
Right, I know that.
But almost all of them have guns.
Really?
Yeah. And more than one.
I would think when we lived there, it wasn't such a thing. It was more of a Republican.
Something changed.
Whatever. I don't think they need those guns.
All right. And so what else would you say that we gain? What are some other good things?
Food. I mean, we ate there. That's true. And people are getting big over there, actually. You ever been to Texas, by the way?
I've never been to Texas.
You can barely
I want to
fit
go
in.
to Austin, Texas, because I hear there's a great comedy scene that's
Could be,
starting
but
there.
I don't think you can fit in there anymore. People are very big.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then I can fit.
No, they're taking up all the space.
I see what you mean.
Also, there's steers there. I mean,
You use fancy words. Steers. I forgot. You also use some
I
words
did
before.
well on the English part of the SAT. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I appreciate that. For me, food.
Food in Israel.
Yeah.
The food here, well, I mean, if you eat kosher,
That's all I know.
because I think there's a lot of good food in New York if you don't eat kosher.
You know what?
There's some good food if you eat kosher, but a lot.
I'll tell you my view on that. I grew up being incredibly jealous of people who are eating non-kosher. You'd see these commercials for like McDonald's, Burger King. That's all here.
But
It's all crap.
There was some closure this week because the thing I most wanted to eat in those commercials, and this might sound weird for a kid, but it's one of my earliest memories is looking at Red Lobster commercials and wanting to have those lobster legs. And Red Lobster went bankrupt this week.
Did it?
So I would have lost my whole investment. I don't know if you get shares in the company by eating at the restaurant.
Look, and speaking
Benji, I'm not an economist like you.
No. But in speaking with people who eat non-kosher food, lobster is the pièce de résistance, meaning that's like it.
You speak French?
I do. Oui. Ouais. And they say ouais. That's like, yeah.
That's very helpful in Ra'anana where we live.
Very much so, yeah.
That's amazing.
But if you eat kosher, then you have so many options here. It's also, what's nice is that you can also eat non-kosher because let's say in Tel Aviv, you can make a mistake.
Yeah. You can make a mistake. I'm using...
You're doing air quotes.
Air quotes.
Right. And then someone sees you in there and you're eating a lobster leg and you're like, what? Like,
I didn't know that.
I assume this was fake lobster. This isn't
surimi.
This isn't Red Lobster here. I mean,
isn't the restaurant called surimi?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, the food is fresher. The vegetables are in season.
It reminds me of the joke of the president of the synagogue, Cohen, who's in a restaurant with a bunch of like work colleagues or whatever, and they ordered like a full pig, like on a pig on a spit.
Yeah.
And like it comes like the whole pig on the spit, and they cut out. And the rabbi walks by, sees through the window, he sees Cohen eating a pig with. He goes to the restaurant, and says, "Cohen, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're the president of the synagogue. You're eating pork in public." He says, "Rabbi, I swear to God, I ordered an apple," and this is how it came.
I like that. Yes, that's happened to me. Basically, things seem fresher. Now, there's a downside to that too. I think in the States, they're bringing in every fruit and vegetable from God knows where in South America, and so you can get. No, I think it's fine. You can get whatever you want. But here, like in blueberry season, blueberries are like Krugerrands, meaning they're very valuable.
Krugerrands.
No, I'm saying like it's expensive.
Are you a closet economist? You have names of currencies, your own currency.
I'm just saying. No, the Krugerrands was like in every like Die Hard movie or something like that. They're always trying to get the Krugerrands.
Not Die Hard. Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon. Yeah, I'm getting too old for this. But what I'm saying is that there is a downside to the food
and a lot of
thing.
Americans don't know that in Israel the produce is seasonal. You can't always get an avocado.
Cannot always get it, and when you can get it, because it's of limited supply, particularly if half your country is under missile attack, not half, maybe 10%. It's super expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
Blueberries are worth their weight.
Like if I go to a kiddush and I see a couple blueberries, I'll literally dive at the table.
Yeah.
And I won't even use my hands.
Or cherries. Or strawberries at some times of the year.
I do think that they're playing with you a little bit. Like if you notice in strawberry season here, they're crazy expensive, and you forget how long strawberry season is. You're like, oh my God, strawberries! I gotta get that
before they go away.
And then like 2 months later, they're still selling them. They're like at a quarter of the price. But anyway, the food the kosher food at least is better here. It turns out all the things that I was jealous of your friends, the non-Jews who you saw at the Yankee game. It's all crap. McDonald's is terrible. Like
it's true.
Just,
you find that out. You're right.
Red Lobster, not that good and out of business now. And so I think we have it good. Shawarma's delicious. All that kind of stuff.
And old, just in parenthesis, just to make our American listeners hungry, old Israeli type grills are making a comeback a little bit.
What do you mean by that?
That in Ra'anana, a great restaurant, I won't mention their name because I want them to be one of our sponsors. And in a minute, we'll get to our first sponsorship.
Okay.
but I won't mention the name. But they opened up kind of a little sister restaurant, or as the kids say, Lil Sister, which is kind of an old-fashioned Israeli grill place where you get the shipudim, the chunks of meat on the skewer.
Yes.
And all the salads, and they get free refills.
Yeah, tons of salads, right?
And that kind of place is making a comeback now.
Worst job. I don't know.
You can eat in a diner, essentially. Like in America, you would never eat in a diner because you're kosher. There's no kosher diner.
There's no inexpensive restaurant here, though. Like a diner is
That's
like,
true,
you know, the waitress comes over and
Hanes.
she's like, "You want more coffee? Like it's free." It's like the limitless cup. There's nothing limitless here.
But you can eat in almost any place.
You can. By the way, I've thought long and hard about the hardest job in the world. And these restaurants, of which there are fewer in Israel than just a few years ago, hamburgers here are becoming the most important, the most popular food, I think. But those like traditional Israeli restaurants, where you would get the skewers and you would get a million salads on a million plates on your table,
like 25 salads, yes.
Yeah. Worst job in the world, dishwasher in that restaurant.
You're right.
Every table is like 30 dishes.
It's a ton of dishes.
Yeah.
And I think waitress or waiter is harder because they're one by one. There's no way to grip more than one at once.
Right. I'll say another upside for living in Israel is the waitresses. So
that's the elephant in the room.
No, but I'm just saying.
Here we're getting to something. We weren't sure we wanted to talk about this.
I don't even know what I'm talking about. What are you talking about?
Well, you mentioned, I think, people in Israel, and I'll go both ways on this one. People in Israel are more attractive.
Physically.
And certainly Jews in Israel are more attractive than Jews in other places in the world.
Right.
And
you don't judge a book by its cover, though, meaning that's...
There's been a lot of improvement in teeth, in orthodontistry.
They have orthodontists
Orthodontry?
now?
Orthodontistry.
They have that there?
They do now. They've had it a long time. It's one of the things that's most improved in the world is the teeth of English people, British people.
That's good for them.
Not including
now when they
Wales.
say we want to boycott Israel, you understand them and you're not just so focused on the teeth.
It's
right?
not just it's just focused on the teeth.
Right.
All right, so but
that's a broader point.
There have been moments when I've said that when my son grows up, he will be happy that I moved him to Israel. There's some things he might be angry about, but there's
like the war he's in now, right?
He's a combat soldier in a war, but there might still be some things he'll be grateful for.
Yeah, I was just saying I wasn't even going there necessarily of how they look, but you don't have in America. You'll have these like hardened, waitresses who've done it forever. They're super professional.
Yeah.
Here it's some kid in your daughter's class who's maybe 15. And there's just a cheeriness. It's their first job. It's like amazing, and they're screwing everything up. They're dropping everything, but
unfounded optimism.
Unfounded optimism. Exactly.
Untethered optimism.
Exactly.
I have
There's
a vocabulary
something nice about
too,
that.
Benji. Maybe I don't know Krugerrands. Maybe I don't have my own currency.
Right.
But I can say untethered.
Untethered is a good word.
Some things though you lose. Having lived here for like 25 years, I'm starting to forget how to pronounce. I'm starting to be unsure how to pronounce certain words in English.
Like what?
One of them came up recently. I don't know whether it's scourge or scourge. I'm not sure. Now, I'm a person who has problems with pronunciation because for like almost my whole life until my family very sarcastically and meanly corrected me at the Shabbat table when it came up, when it was discovered.
You were saying shlabak.
What's that?
Instead of Shabbat.
No. I was saying, instead of the word misshapen, I thought it was mishappen.
What's wrong with you?
Because it would be in a book. It would be like the misshapen leg of the wounded animal. That happened as a result of a mishap.
Yeah, I've heard you say it. I thought you were having like a mini stroke. I didn't know that you just are stupid.
It was nice. I was ignorant.
Okay.
I don't know. I should talk more.
You're right. You're not stupid. You're uninformed.
There's other words, and it'll come up as it comes up. I'll mention it, and maybe I'm doing it now.
If
so, we would like some listener feedback on words that I've mispronounced.
Definitely.
Mispronunciated.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. So, just the last two things about what you gain. You don't have to take vacation days for the Jewish holidays.
Right.
That's a big.
Right. It was always difficult to leave.
You have to leave work.
You'd leave at work like every Friday early.
You feel guilty. You'd have to come back in on a Sunday.
By the way, your friends, the Goyim, they were fine with it.
Right.
It was the non-religious Jews who looked at you like
right.
What Shavuos? Like what is that? Isn't that like some sort of Hindu thing? No,
right.
It's ours. and we're going to be gone
Festival of
and we're
Weeks.
gone for like 2 or 3 days. Right?
And here it's just one day. Also, that's also good. There's just one day of holiday.
It is, and it's not. You have less holidays.
That's a whole episode. We'll do a whole
Yeah.
episode on that. I would like to have another Passover Seder, but that's another episode.
Really?
The other thing is that in Israel, there's no anti-Semitism. There is death enmity. There are blood vendettas, but there's no
I
anti-Semitism.
disagree.
I thought you would agree about that. We
No,
could go
why
into
would I
the
agree with
sponsorship.
that? You could survey the Muslim world.
It's not
And-
because you're Jewish. It's because you're not Muslim. It's different.
And that's better?
They don't think that they don't, the reason they don't like it is not because they think you control the world, and it's much more. It's just that you're here.
I'm going to sound like some anti-Zionist now, but I think that with the establishment of the state of
Do you
Israel,
think anyone is an anti named Zionist?
wait, say that
It's
again.
really confusing. Like my auntie Zionist.
That would be a problem.
But I guess it would also work for auntie.
No, it's not a problem anymore. Half the Jews are anti-Zionist. It's okay.
Go on. Yeah.
I think that with the establishment of the state of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
for them, right?
1948.
That's right. The passcode to my phone. Boom. They conflated Jews with Zionists, and so for them, like, meaning I'm not one of these people who thinks that Jews lived in harmony with Muslims forever, but it became a lot worse with the establishment of the state of Israel, and that like perception of Jews extends beyond Israelis and Zionists. So there is something like anti-Semitism directed at Jews. If you were to poll them about their views of Jews and their views of Christians, I suspect they would have a much more enmity toward Jews
A
than
more negative view.
yeah, definitely,
All
and
right.
that's in
I
part
still think
because
it's different.
of Israel.
I
Meaning
still think
that
it's different. I think it's more.
you feel that day to day, like,
I feel like the hatred is less.
but you're
It's anti-Israel. It's not anti.
You're contradicting yourself. You just said that you missed these amazing Yankee games
Benji,
where it's all kumbaya and they love you and they don't even notice
Consistency
you.
is the hobgoblin of small minds.
Really?
And now let's move to the next segment.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd love to make money on this podcast, a lot of it.
Why not?
And I think the way to do this is through sponsorships. But we don't have a sponsor yet. It's our first episode.
Sponsorships is
So
one way.
I thought, and also
Yeah.
because it's wartime,
No, we could also use the podcast to sell organs and drugs. Like we could just.
right? That might engender anti-Semitism.
I don't think.
There's conspiracies about organ sales.
Okay.
Benji meant
Not
organs.
just conspiracies.
You
I
meant
think.
like
I think in
pianos.
New Jersey.
You meant like we could
yeah,
do organs, we
actually-
could do pianos, we could do bagpipes. You meant like those kinds of organs.
No, I was thinking like there were these rabbis in New Jersey made like a lot of money selling organs. You know about
let's
that?
not go
They
there.
got caught, whatever.
This
But
is rated PG.
Okay, go.
Like, so the sponsorship.
Yeah.
It's wartime, and a lot of people are donating things, and I think we should donate the first sponsorship, and people can see how good it could be for their business. So I thought we would donate the sponsorship to OL Ari Synagogue in Ra'anana.
That's a good one.
OL Ari is a great synagogue.
Uh-huh.
It has everything you want from a synagogue. It has a rabbi. It has a president. It has a sisterhood. It has prayer books, Chumashim. It has the Bible books. It has Torahs.
Mm-hmm.
And everything you want from a synagogue is a women's section.
Yep.
It's a great. What's your synagogue like?
Well, I'm now also a member of Oilari,
Mm-hmm.
but I go to a synagogue. It's a little more on the liberal side. There is a women's section, but it's used, but it's a balcony.
It's like a women's choir section.
It's a balcony, and the idea was that the women shouldn't be stuck in the balcony, so they put men in the balcony, and the women have half the downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get an aliyah, you got to know about it like way in advance. I want them to build a pole down like in Batman where you just kind of come down, boom. But you got to go all the way around.
So there could be
By the way, it's not so bad in the balcony. You could talk. You could do whatever
pole
you want up
dancing
there.
in Itivot. That's the next thing.
Potentially. Not dancing.
It's a
yeah.
slippery slope.
Slippery
pole.
Right. It's a fantastic shul. Maybe
So now-
maybe we'll let them
I think-
sponsor the
I
next
think-
one.
I think
Okay.
we see how good for your. I think we said a lot of nice things about the synagogue.
We
see
did.
how good it could be for us. So maybe
So
that
this is a
restaurant,
free sponsorship, meaning
This one is free.
they're not paying us.
They don't have to pay for any increase in membership,
Okay.
or if any pole dancers start coming to your synagogue, that's free. That's on us.
Right. By the way, there's no affiliate membership. I have to pay both.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no tax treaty between the synagogues.
Seemingly not. No.
Yeah, I'm also a member of both. Hope Rabbi Farber is not listening to this. I think you also hope he's not listening to this. He's your rabbi. All right. That brings us to the next section of the podcast, which is this: the podcast needs a title.
Absolutely. Right.
I have a thought about this.
By the way, I've heard this already. So yeah, I'm just gonna sit back and let you tell the audience. You're not telling me. I've heard this.
You have heard this. So
Yeah.
we talked about this, obviously.
This is the one thing we talked about in advance. So as you all
there's
say.
a great podcast, which I know that you also listen to sometimes. It's Dan Senor's podcast, and he calls it, it's very deep, in depth. It's fantastic. And it's been a big help to me during the war to listen to and get kind of
Yeah.
So shout out to Dan Senor. Dan, I can call him Dan. I don't know him.
I call him Senor.
It might help. I said, yeah, Senor Dan. That was his nickname back when we were podcasting school.
Is that right?
Yeah. And Senor Dan. And anyway, his is called "Call Me Back," which is catchy and also speaks to the connections that he has in the world. You can just like call the prime minister.
He's also of a certain age where people called each
Hey,
other.
Bibby. A lot of Americans say Bibby instead of BB.
Do they? I think they say like
Hey, Bibby, call me
idiot,
back.
You know,
Oh, come on. Don't get
villain,
political. This is not a political podcast.
horrible person,
Stop it. You don't
terrible
even
prime
know him.
minister,
You don't
liar,
know him.
criminal.
Who isn't?
Me.
Relax. Well, that's a whole other podcast
Me.
episode. So anyway, he has this great name, Call Me Back. But I think that Call Me Back belies his age.
Oh, I just said that. Yeah.
When did you say that?
Just a second ago, we said we have to listen to each other.
Sorry. So anyway, we went back and Benji did not say that.
Okay.
We're back now, and I have no idea. And but I think it's old. It makes him, because people used to say, kids nowadays don't know, call me back, call me back. No one leaves a message and say, call me back. You just
Nobody leaves a message.
Right, you just do the WhatsApp video thing. So call me back is old.
I don't think they do the
The
WhatsApp
new podcast
video
like
thing.
not video, audio.
I hate those people.
I
Just type.
don't hate anyone,
Just
but I
type.
don't like it. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not type worthy.
I don't have 2 minutes to listen to you.
I'm saying I like you. Just type.
And all right.
Anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so that's old, and
Yeah.
I want to do something more modern,
More
So
hip.
more hip,
No
more
ca-
with it.
No cap.
And what I get a lot, most calls I do are on Zoom, and so I think what you hear all the time, I certainly hear it all the time, almost in every Zoom I'm on, is you're on mute. And they'll like do a motion with their hands, like, and signal you're on mute. Can't hear you. You're
Yeah.
on mute.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to call the podcast. You're on mute.
Okay, it has merit. I like it.
Yeah. And as a deeper meaning that don't be on mute. Express yourself. Say what you think. Say what you really think. Don't be mute. I mean,
like we're saying that to each other and
to our audience,
to the audience.
Well,
like, express
to
yourself.
whom we will be reaching out very shortly in the last segment of this episode.
So I like that one. I had a different idea, but I'm fine with that one.
Okay.
It's my 2 sheks worth. Like it's my 2 cents worth. But this is my 2 sheks worth.
Not my 2 Hainesworth. That would be too expensive.
That would be my. Yeah, I can't even do the
It's
conversion.
1 Hain.
Right?
2 shekels would be 1 Hain.
My 1 Hainesworth. It would be my 2 sheks worth. It's just catchy.
Right.
I don't know. It's Israel, but it's also an English phrase.
I think it could be confusing to our Czech listeners. People
It's also
listening in the Czech
it's also
Republic.
my net worth. Like so, it's all
2 shekels worth.
yeah.
We'll consider it.
Yeah, okay.
We can have
Bring it to the committee.
to the committee, and any listeners who want to opine about that, we'd be certainly happy to hear from you.
Definitely. Yeah.
Desperate, in fact.
Yeah,
And
I think
the last thing.
the next thing we wanted to do was put out a little contest to the audience with a prize.
I'm very excited about this.
I am
I
excited.
did not
too.
know about the prize. The prize is a free subscription to the podcast. Go on.
No, we'll get them maybe a blueberry.
Nuts.
1 blueberry. I'll take it from Kiddish.
All right.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is I had a meal with a family. It was fantastic. And we had pineapple, which I think is it's like a platinum, you know.
Where was this?
Whatever. So and there were these 2 girls there, nice girls from America. They're from Barnard. And we were talking about all the
I would pronounce that Bernard.
Yeah, so you do have a problem, right? So they're from Barnard on the Columbia campus there. And I was asking them about the protest because I was interested.
Sure.
And I said, what about the counter protests? Because you never really see much footage of them.
No.
And they said, well, the biggest problem, and they were being serious, is that we have no good chance.
No, they didn't say that.
They said that. That's the main reason. That's the biggest problem they have right now is they don't know what to say. So I thought, well, I'm Mr. Creative. By the time, dessert is here, I'm going to think of something. Nothing rhymes with terrorist. Nothing rhymes with Hamas. I just literally couldn't help them. They told me the best chant they have, I think it was this. It was like, rape is not resistance. That's the chant. Now, you got to think about like 5 things before you're understanding what they're talking about.
That also doesn't rhyme.
It doesn't rhyme. No. Where's our Gershwin? Where's our Bernstein? Not Bernstein. Like Jews can write songs. We can write chants. If we can do anything, we can do that.
Yeah, but there is some low hanging fruit, I think. There,
but they have free also, Palestine. They have like from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the sea to the river, Palestine will live forever. Like this stuff is just like.
So there's
even
one.
me.
I have one right there.
Even me. I'm on the other side. I love those chants.
So, from the sea to the river, let the Jews eat chopped liver. What do you think about that? We can have a state.
They don't have a problem with
self-determination.
But
they have a problem with us eating it here.
I guess so.
Also, what I told kids who were going to the army, I saw like visiting my son in the lead up to the war. I would tell them, get in there and kick some Hamas. See what I did there? Yeah, that's not a mistaken mispronunciation.
Oh, that's not another.
I know that it's not Hamas.
Right.
But kick some Hamas.
And did it give
solving
him
2 problems?
That gave him confidence. Like
and also it gets ham because I miss bacon.
You miss bacon.
You get the ham in it. All right, so
anyway,
I see what you mean.
What I said was, okay, I'm doing this podcast. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be successful. And it's going to have every week a little contest where we hear from our loyal listeners. Yeah. So I
hope that your pluralization is not untethered optimism.
Okay. We're both married. So I'm going to ask our audience to come up with some chants that we can give to these nice Barnard, I shouldn't have said
girls. How should they send them in?
Women.
Voice recording. They should send it to us by WhatsApp in a voice recording. Right. That would be the only acceptable use of a voice recording.
That's it. Yeah.
And if you send it to us, that is permission for us to play it on the next episode.
Exactly. Right.
Which really essentially means that it's almost this, because this is really our voice recording to our listeners.
It's a big, and I just said I hate voice recordings. Yeah.
You shouldn't have said that.
I shouldn't have said that. People are shutting us off right now. So
when I'm waving my hands and mouthing the word don't, that.
So your chant, it can be something that's, like whimsical. It can be something serious, but something where we could just take some of that attention away from those guys on the other side with their fantastic chants. I suspect it's Jews writing those chants.
Palestine will be free.
There's a lot of Jews.
From the river to the sea.
I'm not asking you.
Let the Jews be happy.
I'm not asking you to come up with it. I'm asking our loyal audience members.
Okay, good. So
I think we're going to help these Barnard women out, and we're
coming up on the 5-hour mark here.
Yeah. And it's going to be life changing for the Jews, or the Zionist Jews, we have to say now, on campus. All right. We're going to change the world here.
One podcast at a time.
Got it.
That's what I wanted. It's all I wanted.
Thanks,
Benji, for doing this.
Thanks
for coming
Avi.
in.
This was great.
And you didn't have to wear makeup. It's a podcast.
I wore it anyway.
All right. Thank you. I have my Freudian slip. Freudian. See that? I mispronounced Freudian.
There's something wrong with you.
Bye.
Bye.